Okay, so I'm having some difficulties with my iPad. This lesson is going to be a little bit different. I'm recording it with my computer. You should still be able to follow along just the same. What we're working on in 1.3 is the order of operations. Some of you remember it as the acronym PEMDAS. And so what we'll talk about here is how to properly evaluate an expression. First of all, we have a numerical expression is an expression that contains only numbers and operations. So you're not going to have any variables here. You're going to have just numbers that you need to operate on. It says to evaluate or find the value of a numerical expression, use a set of rules called the order of operations. And you can see here the key idea has the order of operations. It says perform operations in parentheses, evaluate numbers with exponents, multiply or divide from left to right. Notice here that these are at the same level. You do not always multiply before you divide. If it says something like 12 divided by 3 times 2, you divide and then multiply. So make sure that you pay attention to that from left to right spot. Also, we have here add or subtract from left to right. So again, same rule applies. So if we look at example 1 here, again, I'm not going to be able to write out all of this, but you guys should be able to tell where they get their answers. We have 12 minus 2 times 4. Well, we know order of operations says that we have to multiply before we can subtract. So sometimes students see this and they make the mistake of saying 12 minus 2 is 10, and then they multiply by 4 and they get 40. Well, you can see here that your answer is not even close to the same if you follow those order of operations like you should. We have to multiply -2 and +4 and we get -8. Then we take 12 minus 8 and we get our answer 4. Example B is a little bit different. Example B, we have a set of parentheses, so we take care of those first. Now again, notice that the divide symbol is outside those parentheses, but we can't take care of that. We have to multiply this time, and it's because of those parentheses. So we have 7 plus 60 divided by the quantity 3 times 5. You'll notice in this first step right here, they have changed 3 times 5 to 15. Then we have to go ahead and divide. 60 divided by 15 is 4. 7 plus 4 is 11. So again, you can see the order of operations there. In example 2, it gets a little bit more complex. We have a little bit of everything in here. So if we look closely, first of all, we have division, we have multiplication, we have parentheses, and inside those parentheses, we have exponents. Whenever you're evaluating a problem that has parentheses in it, you treat it like a new problem. So 7 plus 2 to the third power, we evaluate that first, and inside those parentheses we have exponents. The book does a nice job of telling you what they do. So 30 divided by 7 plus 2 to the third power times 6. The very first thing they did, they said it right here, evaluate 2 to the third power, and they get 8. Notice that we have parentheses still. We didn't get rid of those, so we have to take care of our parentheses still. Now we can take 7 plus 8 and we get 15. So again, it says it over here to the left, or excuse me, to the right, perform the operation in the parentheses. Then see here we have division in front of multiplication. We do not multiply 15 by 6 before we divide. It's from left to right. So 30 divided by 15 is 2, and then we take 2 times 6 and get 12. If we would have multiplied first, we would have got a fraction answer, and we shouldn't get a fraction answer on this one. So make sure you follow those order of operations. Okay, so now that we've seen some of these, what we'll do here is we will go ahead and do some of these warm-up activities. So let me get this pulled up here. Example 1 on your own. So what I'll do here, let me pull this up. Hopefully you can see that now, and it's a little bit bigger. So pause the video and try those 6. Once you get those 6 tried, then you can go ahead and move on and see if you got the right answer. Okay, so now that we've had an opportunity, hopefully, to try those, let me pull that back up again. Now that we've had an opportunity to try those 6, I'm going to go ahead and click, and it will give you the answers here. So For number 1, you should get 38. Number 2, you should get 2. Number 3, you should get 85. Number 4, you should get 21. Number 5, you should get 45. And number 6, you should get 22. Again, make sure you did all these on a clean sheet of paper and showed your work nicely. If you didn't get the right answer on one, go ahead and raise your hand and we'll figure out what you did wrong. Once we get this done, now we'll go back to the textbook here and we'll take a look at example 3. So up at the top of this page here, again, you guys can see this in your book as well. It says it's on page 16, excuse me. On page 16 it says the symbols X and dot are used to indicate multiplication. Sometimes you'll also see just a number on the outside of parentheses, and again, here's what it's talking about. This 3 is on the outside of the parentheses. This means that you're going to multiply 3 by whatever is inside. Now, again, as we get into the more advanced math, what will end up happening is that one of these two will be a variable. But again, the operation remains the same. You're supposed to multiply. Using order of operations. So again, these are just going to be more practice with order of operations. You guys, none of this is any different. It's just getting a little more complex. So we'll go through this one and talk about it here real quick, and then after that we'll have a few more practice problems. So evaluate the expression 9 plus 7 times the quantity 5 minus 2. And again, notice anytime I say times the quantity, I'm talking about things that are inside the parentheses. When we have parentheses, again, we want to evaluate what's going on in there first. So it says perform the operation in parentheses off to the right. Our next step after we do that is we need to multiply, because we always multiply before we add or subtract. After we multiply, we get 21. Then we can go ahead and add, and when we add, we get 30. Example B, 15 minus 4 times the quantity 6 plus 1 divided by 2 squared. So again, we always do parentheses, then exponents, then multiply or divide, then add or subtract. So notice here, they take 6 plus 1 and they perform that operation in the parentheses and get 7. Then we have to go clear to the very end of our problem and take care of this exponent. Notice that everything about this problem is the same in the next step, except for the fact that they evaluated 2 to the second power and got 4. Now we cannot subtract before we divide, so we need to take 28 divided by 4, and we get negative 7 because the 28 is negative and the 4 is positive. Again, if we have different signs when we're multiplying or dividing, we get a negative answer. 15 and 7 are different signs. We subtract. 15 is positive, 7 is negative. We subtract and we get 8. So again, that's more of the same order of operations. You guys have seen these before. Then we have one here real quick. So I'll just talk about example 4 before I pull up the practice examples for you guys. It says you buy foam spheres, paint bottles, and wooden rods to construct a model of your own solar system. And they have a little picture of it over here. And it says use a verbal model to solve the problem. It says the cost of 9 spheres plus the cost of 6 paint bottles plus the cost of 8 rods. Well, they give you the cost of all of these things right here. So really what we're doing to figure out our price, you guys, is we're taking this column times this column, and then we're adding those two together once we get the final answer for all of those. So 9 times 2 gives us the cost of the spheres, 6 times 3 gives us the cost of the paint, and then 8 times 1 gives us the cost of the rods. So notice here we have those, and if you wanted to, you could put parentheses around them, but we don't need to because it's multiplication. We can go ahead and multiply the 9 and 2 and get 18, the 6 and 3 and get another 18, and then 8 times 1 is 8. Then we can add all 3 of those and we get our answer, $44. So one more set of examples here before you guys have some practice problems on your own. So I'll go ahead and pull this up so you guys can see it. And then once these problems all pop up, go ahead and pause it and take a moment to try some on your own. Okay, so that's all 4 problems. Pause the video and try them on your own. Okay, now that we've had a moment to try it on our own, so again, the story problem really wasn't that hard. It was using the same model that we just talked about. So if you had to go back in the video to look at that table, that's fine. But we have the answer to number 7 is 4, the answer to number 8 is 0, the answer to number 9 is 8, and then we have that verbal model example again. Remember, the cost of the spheres was $2, the paint was $3, and the rods was $1. And now what they've done is they've said, okay, now we're going to add another sphere, and we're going to use the same amount of paint and the same rods. So now instead of $44, we have $47. So it just added a little bit of cost to our solar system project. Okay, so now that we've gone through all of these, let's go ahead and talk about what we should do for an assignment. So I'm going to look over this real quick. I'll put this in PowerSchool for you as well, or in maybe an e-backpack, but you guys will be on page 20 in the green book. And let's do 4 through 22 even, and then we'll skip 24. Let's do 26 and 28 and 30. Let's try that. And then if you can't get that one, let's say skip 30 if you can't get it. If you can, great. And then after you're done with 30, let's try 34 through 38 all. Again, I'll write that down also, but if you want to write that down as I'm recording the video here, you have the time to do that. Again, ask questions if you have them, and good luck.